It's Brian, and I'm working on campaign 2 of what I'm hoping will be our follow-on campaign that I'm using once we finish up with Lumina Aegis, which is campaign 1, which was a sci-fi spaced expanse type engagement. And I thought maybe the next time we'll do something having to do with something more in everybody's wheelhouse, fantasy, sword and sorcery kind of stuff, which kind of answering questions as I go through here. You might have seen campaign 2's first episode where I started asking and answering some questions with regards to that. And I am working through a list of questions that are here. So as people come online here, we will, take questions from the audience. We will take, suggestions on, what should be added, maybe potentially to the world. So, and maybe we'll have some folks that will want to help out in that way, and maybe depending on how extreme the idea is with regards to that, we will maybe ask for some remuneration from that. So if you really want to help drive the discussion or what have you, please feel free to chat with me in the chat. There's no wrong answer. I just ask that you treat everybody who has ideas with some respect. And as the DM/player, I will have final fiat on some of the things here. So let us get, and I'll change the background at some point too, because we won't be in the sci-fi realm, which I probably should have changed it beforehand, but I didn't have a background to work with here. So I could go completely black, but then that kind of, you start seeing some stuff here, some artifacts with regards to my green screen. So yeah. And of course my familiar will be showing up at some points, poking her head up or just leaving. That's Mama Kitty. Yeah, say hi. Say hello. Every good wizard needs a familiar, right? Yeah. That's my Mama Kitty. So all right. Let's go ahead and get started. So this is the screen that I have up right now. I am going through looking at a few things. I had in the previous video pulled up several world building question asking things. Some of them were fairly in-depth, several hundred questions. Others were, depending on where you start in your world, was full of minutia, which is great if that's how you want to flesh out your world. Others are like, what's the government like? And it's like, well, you kind of skipped some stuff, or there were some assumptions made about those things, and that may be some questions we'll ask later, like this one here, for instance, in Arcadia. Cruise reading room, world building checklist. I mean, the first thing they start out with is economy, government, then they get into the land and society and culture, and magic and science is some of the last stuff that gets involved. And I was like, well, perhaps the land would be one of the first things, not to use the Genesis myth, but let there be light, and there was void and there was nothing, and then all of a sudden, there's light, right? There's light. And then there was a world, and there was a ball in this case, or an oblate spheroid, if you follow what's the correct terminology of what the Earth is. Some fantasy realms are flat disk, like Discworld. So my thought was potentially this part would be first, and then it has a ton of stuff, right? So some of these questions will ask calendars. Oh my God, are there leap years? Really? I mean, does it need to have a leap year? No. Some of these questions may be like immediately no, right? And so I tried to find one that was a little bit of, in the middle. That's not this, but there are a number of sites out there with regards to that, and I'll put some of those in the description. There's actually whole books you can read on that. Where was the one I was using? No, that's not it. That's not it. This one. Okay, so this is the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association book. You can go here and I will pop up a QR code so people can grab that if they want to grab that. And so they start out with, the basics, are there laws of nature, physical, are different in this world? Are they the same as in real life? Does magic fit in? Do magic beasts fit in? The magical beast thing, one of the issues I had with Ironsworn was the question that they asked about world building also tried to push certain facts upon you, right? The fact that you're pretty much in the Forge. There's no alternative to the Forge. It is a great system, don't get me wrong. And it's actually something I thought about using in the D&D type, sword and sorcery kind of system with regards to goals for advancement in that. But it was like LTE is the same drive, which, is okay. And it's very similar to the magic that, are there different kinds of magic? Do they all come from the same place? So I've been thinking about a ton of different things and looking at a bunch of homebrew stuff, which I will try to give as much credit on the homebrew stuff as I can, from Reddit, D&D homebrew, homebrewery, several Reddits over there. And so I have taken this list in section A and B because I kind of answered my own question about is this not an all in Earth or is this an alternate Earth? And after listening to podcasts like what? Hold on, I forgot. I want to get the exact name down. I don't want to get it wrong. It was, where is it? It is Ken and Robin talk about stuff. One of the rules that they tell you when you're building a campaign is go with what you know, right? And we know the Earth. And so the idea is that it will be an alternate Earth, if you will. So I've got my little markdown box here. I've got my preview. Some of the basics here are, are the laws of nature and physics actually different in this world or the same in real life? I'm going to say they are the same. And so, same as Earth. There we go. And I will... There we go, same as Earth. How does magic fit in? There is magic. So yeah, I mean, I think with swords and sorcery type stuff or D&D type stuff, I don't think that the fact that there is magic is the question. Is it low magic, like, areas where kind of like Lord of the Rings, where there really was only, a handful of people who could do magic, and one of them was pretty bad, and another one kind of became bad. It could be a corrupting influence, that kind of thing. So, and then you have where, everybody and their brother has magic, like My Little Pony or something, where everybody's just doing magic and it's all cool and there's no barriers there. It comes into some interesting problems where it's like if you have magic, those who have magic and those who don't, you run into a have or have not kind of situation where is that lorded over people? Do you have nations where there's a magical, oligarchy? Or, or is there something that is balancing out the fact that there's no magic? Maybe there's mage hunters or an anti-magic country or kingdom or organization that keeps those people in check. There'll be other questions down here about what's the consequences of using magic, and that may be something we want to use. So magic fits in. I would say magic is available. magic is available. I want to say magic is available to all who wish to use it. Because I think that kind of goes into our systems, right? So there may be, you know, with sorcerers and like D&D, that's based on their lineage or bloodline. If they've, you know, had a polymorphed dragon giving birth, if their polymorphed silver dragon father, you know, impregnated their human mother or their elven mother, you know, the idea is that their bloodline has, you know, that in there. Or in Dune with the you know, the different pairings and genetic makeup of people makes them more predisposed to being able to influence, if you will. I would say that there is a bloodline thing. There's actually a book series from Catherine Kurtz from way back in the day. Well, actually, the most recent one's in 2016. And it's all about, you know, people, a race of people with inherent magical or mystical abilities, and they have it's a genetic thing, right? There's a genetic predisposition that, and just like with Dune, you had the sisters, the order of the sisters that would create genetic pairings to find the perfect human being. Or in this case, it took them a few years. There was a few back steps. Eventually they got one or two, depending on the book series you see. But yeah, there's a whole series of books about, you know, that kind of thing, about the genetic makeup and matches that cause that. And then there's political and religious strife there. So I would say there may be a way to learn how to use magic or harness magic like a wizard. You know, you go to wizard school, like a Harry Potter kind of thing, or a Strixhaven Academy. There might be a bloodline or genetic thing. There might be a way of, I was thinking of at least a few different ways of doing this, of magic. So at some point we'll come in, how do magic beasts fit in? I don't know. What is a magic beast in this case? Is it like a My Little Pony where, you know, magic is possible? Is it a Sphinx where, you know, they're inherently magical? Are there beasts that come from other planes? Or maybe it's like a Pokemon thing where, you know, for whatever reason, you know, a turtle can spray a jet of water, you know. Is that a magical effect? I would say if we have something like that, it would be very similar to Pokemon in this world, where yes, it would be a magical effect, and there would be animals with intelligence. Squirtle, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah. And interesting, they kind of buried the lead here on this question. Is it generally an Earth-like world? Is it an alternate Earth? And then, so... This is the second question. It seems like should have been the first question, because if you ask this question and you say, well, no, it's not an alternate Earth, then you're not going to go down here and you're going to fill out these things, or these things here will be dependent on questions down here, I think. There may be, you know, there may be some questions in the not Earth at all that we'd want to answer, like, you know, are there same ratio of land, water, atmosphere, etc. You know, are there any constellation comets visible by day or night? How are the continents laid out? That kind of thing. It may be Earth-like. It may be like Earth, but maybe the tectonic plates didn't shift the right way. So instead of North America being up here on the map, it might be down here where Australia is, and Australia might be where South America is. So the continents may be shifted a little bit. You know, and that really depends on, you know, where we want to put those land masses. But, you know, generally, everything is kind of Earth-like. The same biospheres are going to be in the same place. Some of the, I mean, if we move North America to a tropical island, obviously some of the things won't exist, like, you know. So, yeah, and maybe we'll add stuff. Maybe we'll add, you know, Pacific Ocean's pretty open, so maybe there'll be another continent or over there or something, or an undiscovered world, if you will. So in this case, is it generally an Earth-like world? Answer is yes. Is it an alternate Earth? I would say yes. Now, we're going to get down to a point where it's going to be like, how alternate is it? Is it, like some of the worlds or some of the systems where it's like, well, they discovered steam power in ancient Greece, was it Herodotus? Whoever figured out the steam engine made that leap and going like, it can do work. And then it's like, we had trains in in the 1300s or 1400s or something like that. So the technological advance went a lot quicker and a lot faster because somebody made that leap in ancient Greece that steam power is a cool thing. And then there's magic as well. So it may be a mixture of magical and technical stuff, which is why things like artificers, I like the idea of that. So it may be something we'll have to do. Are there different human races, whether or not there are non-humans like elves or dwarves? Does the cultural or ethnic diversity of this world how does this cultural or ethnic diversity of this world compare to the real world? So one of the things that I wanted to do with the world that I was creating, yes, other human races exist, I would say, but other non-human races exist as well. And there are non-human races. I would say not only are we going to have elves and dwarves, but I want to kind of flip them on their head. And this is a unique idea. The idea, because every D&D race you see and Lord of the Rings and everything, dwarves live in mountains, they mine stuff, they love gold, they hate dragons, they hate orcs, they hate whatever. Elves live in trees and in the forest, and they're all beautiful, and they enjoy, singing with no words, and they live a long time, etc. I'd like to flip some of those tropes over in my mind. And so how does the cultural and ethnic diversity of this world, I would say it's just as diverse in this case, just as diverse. And, some of this is going to be, we will potentially take and I want to be sensitive to, cultures and what have you. I don't want to just, reuse something. I'd like to kind of flip some things on their heads, but in a respectful way. I understand that is a sore point with a lot of folks, and I want to be cognizant of that whenever we talk about those things. The idea is to not be disparaging to any group. I prefer the polytheistic cultures. I prefer the interesting cultures out there. I love seeing and learning about different cultures. So that is something that I want to make sure that we're continually aware of and treat it with all the respect that it is due in this case. All right, so we finished. Oh, wait. I don't know what the hell happened there. How long have there been people on this world? See, I think the thing is, it's like we need to figure out, one of the things about the creation myth is who created the world or what created the world. I actually have thought about this, which is it's a bit meta, and I'm sure I'm not the first person who ever thought of this. How long have there been people on this world? I want to say, there's always been people, always been inhabitants. I'm going to call it inhabitants. People is, to think, what if there's animal races? I like the idea of anthropomorphic species. There's no shortage of that. And you got tabaxi, you have other races of non-humanoid types. Some of them may not walk on all two legs. So there's another option there. Did they evolve or did they migrate from somewhere or when else? What? Somewhere or somewhen else. Okay. I would say, what I'd like to keep some of this up to suggestions. So I would say some have migrated in. Others have been here from the start. How many people are there in this country? I would say not country, but it would be closer to planet. Now, if they're talking about scale, it's like if we're going to start with the scale and it's going to be kind of small, on the small side. So, if, for example, if we start our world, if we throw a dart, for instance, and we start our world, say, I don't know, what if we started our world here in this big island chain of Indonesia? What is Indonesia on our world? Except, we flip it and reverse it, right? To use a C. Eliot phrase. So what if we started out and we were in, maybe we started on this island. This is an interesting looking island, interestingly shaped. I was looking at this and the first thing I thought of was, oh, it looks like there's a land bridge option here. Like, at one point, maybe some people could walk from the mainland of Asia down, across, or, it'd be very easy for people to see islands in this chain and be able to migrate to various parts of this. But maybe at one time when the Earth had lower sea levels, maybe this whole area, right here was nothing but a land bridge and people could walk, very much like the land bridge that we have up in what was supposed to be the Bering Strait area of the United States, where the U.S. is over here. But yeah, so, so when you come over here to this side, where, there technically is supposed to be Asia, or Russia in this case, the land bridge, when everything was about 200 feet lower, maybe there wasn't as much water and people were able to walk across with no problems. Anyway, so, let me see, how many people are there in this country? I don't know. Let's say that they're too numerous to count in this case. So I would say there's hundreds of thousands. I don't know if anybody has made a census or not. We will see. Maybe there's an explorer group out there or something that goes out and tries to find and try to take a census, if you will. How does this compare with the world population? I'm assuming they meant like now, like are there 7 trillion people on this planet? I'm going to say, I would say it's a small fraction. I would say probably anywhere between 30 to 40% of current world population. And it could be, it could be that, I as the author have wildly underestimated that, right? There we go. All right. And what is considered a small town, large town, or city in terms of people? Okay, I think what I want to do, let's see, small population. What is considered a small village? So it's a rural community with a population ranging from a few hundred to a couple thousand people. See, I want to kind of go on the lower end of that. So a village might have, say, 150 people. So let's see, let's go by village, town. And I think maybe also what would just constitute a village or a town or a city or a metropolis or capital isn't just the number of people. It'd be like services, right? So a village might have a small, one or two police or law enforcement kind of thing, and they may have a general store or something like that, but they won't have they maybe have a healer, but they won't have a hospital. So a town might have more law enforcement, might have more people, more houses, maybe the architecture is better. You might have a general, you might have some industry, in a village, more people are going to do more things, right? And, if you go back and look at places like England, and I'm using that as the quintessential method by which we, look at towns and stuff. It was very much a spoke-like architecture, I think, in this case. In England city map. All right, let's just go look at the Google Maps here. City of London, Londinium in this case, if you go back to the 12th century. So what you see is you see a bunch of towns. So let's start in some place like Cambridge here. So as you zoom in, you see. So you've got Orwell, and let's assume we're in like the Middle Ages or whatever. So you have Orwell, Haslingfield, you have Harston, you have Great Shelford, and then you have Cambridge. So as you can see, as you get, and you can even zip down even further, Orwell, may not be very big. And then you have Barrington, which looks a little bigger. And then you have Frog End. There you go, which is bigger and differently shaped. And you have Harston, and as you get closer to the city, things start getting bigger. So Stapleford and Trumpington, and then you got Cambridge, boom, big city, and then you've got Cambridge, which is a big city. I would say that's probably a metropolis level. A city I'm thinking about might be Great Shelford. And see how far they're not very far apart. So how far is Harsting to Haslingfield? So directions. Haslingfield. Well, see, it says they're only 1.6 miles. Well, okay, so that I don't want to say that's not a good example, but the idea was, most cities in old-timey days were within like a day's walk of one another, or you walked to the nearest river or whatever. So the cities were somewhat spaced apart. So 1.6 miles would take about 20 minutes to get from Haslingfield, and I apologize if you live in Haslingfield and you're watching this, but it's like you're going to bounce back and forth this. So let's say you lived in Meldreth. Let's say Meldreth, and you get to Cambridge. Meldreth to Cambridge. Meldreth to Cambridge, UK. So it's like 10 miles. Wow. Okay, so this is really poor example. Anyway, so the point is, I'm trying to treat it like that, where it's like, okay, if you live in a village, you're going to travel to a town for a market, or you're going to do something like that, and then if there's something really bad, you might go to the city. Kind of like in Wheel of Time, where they went to, they lived in a village. There's everybody knew everybody there because everybody has to depend on everybody. So I would say a village is going to have 100 people, 100-ish people. the services and everything we're going to figure out. And there are many tables out there that will be like, okay, if you have a village, you're going to have this, that kind of thing. Or if you have a town, you will have this in this percentage of chance. So, in a town, are you going to have, a mage? Probably not, unless that town accompanies a wizard tower. And then, of course, the wizard might draw commerce and business there. So that town may become a city at some point. I would say a town is going to have, I'm going to say it's going to have like, 2 to 5x people. 2 to 5x village. And then a city is going to have, I think if we do that, I think if we say 2 to 5. So if a village has 100 people average, a town will have 200 to 500 people. A city would have 500 to 5,000 people, or 2,500 people. Metropolis will have 2,500 to 10,000-ish people. And of course, Metropolis in our time would be like Seattle. Seattle has 1 million people, right? But I said we're going to have less people. So capital may have, 10,000 plus. And I think that's good. I think depending on I would say 200 to 500 people. 5,000 people. I think I want to, again, these are numbers where we're going to fudge them, right? They don't have to be exactly like this. You could have a city, you could have a town with a mage in it, a mage tower. We could have a village where somebody who is famous lives there. Of course, a village in a mountainous area is going to have less people than a village in a very prosperous, near a river kind of thing. So I'm just, just a random kind of idea there. So these shouldn't be really taken to full effect here. Feel like I probably should make a table for that, but we'll see. All right, where does magic power come from? The gods, the mana of the world, the personal willpower, life force, and the magician, or somewhere else? I'm going to say yes. Because I have an idea for a handful of systems, but I don't want them to be the traditional ones like you see in D&D. There will be some traditional ones like that, like, you're going to go to mage school or whatever if if everybody has access to be able to access magic, maybe there's maybe you have to learn how to use it, and my thought was, how do we treat adventurers, right? Adventurers would be like how we would treat athletes, and you have the people who live on the street. You have myself, I don't do anything important. But then you have the Michael Phelpses of the world, and he would be an adventurer. That's my example here. It's like you've got me, who's like, I could potentially be an adventurer, but it takes long hours and effort and time and potentially money and resources to be an adventurer. Sometimes it gets foisted upon you. Sometimes it you can go to adventure school and learn how to do that stuff. So you've got your Michael Phelpses, who's, world-class swimmer, but he would be an example of an adventurer. You might have a Dr. Stephen Hawking, for instance. He's an adventurer. He's above the normal, right? Whoever is above the normal. So you have Simone Biles, greatest female gymnast, greatest gymnast ever. An adventurer. She's probably 10th level or better adventurer in this case. And then you have the common pukes like us. And that's my thought of how this thing works. So you've got people who can do magic, and then you have the Michael Phelpses of magic, or the Simone Bileses of magic, or the Katie Ledeckis of magic, that kind of thing, to use Olympians, if you will. Or, you know, football players. You have the Patrick Mahomes of fighters, the Justin Herberts of, you know, bards, that kind of thing. And those are the folks that go out and they go do things and they change the world, for instance. So, yeah, the idea is there is an overpower, right? There is an overpower. The thought was that all magic will come from the overpower, right? And, you know, it feeds into different systems. So, you know, it creates the ascended, who are the gods. The overpower is based in, I thought about using words like Godbound does, where they have words that allow you to take over certain things. So the ascended may have control over words or themes or ideas, like the god of swimming, for instance. So that god has control over the word swimming, and, you know, that means that they grant power to things that can swim. They grant power to, you know, water-based organisms. I don't know what exactly that looks like. I want to read a little more about Godbound in that, but some words may not be capturable. Some words may be independent of themselves and don't wish to be controlled. So there may be major and minor words in that case. Is magic an inexhaustible resource? That was something I thought of as well, and I thought of my time of playing RuneQuest, when magical weapons were created from the bones of the gods. And my thought was that perhaps the Ascended, there might have been a war or something, and many of them fell to what is our Earth, or this alternate Earth, and their bodies are mined for magical essence or powder, like an ore, if you will, that can be used by certain magic users. So that's why I said magic is available to everybody. You can potentially buy magic powder or something to, you could use it maybe to enchant items. You can put it into potions, or perhaps during that war, when the essence of the gods went away, it spread across the earth. So that's why potions work in plants. You distill the essence of whatever god or ascended that was, that powers, you know, the plant, if you will. But there are only so much of that resource that exists, right? There's only so many ascended who, you know, and this goes back to some history, right? There was a war, maybe a war for the words, if you will, and to be able to control the major words, maybe there was a battle of the initial ascended that created the potential, I don't know what it's going to be called, spice. It might be some kind of metal, or it might be some kind of ore, or some kind of, you know, like sandstone, like a sandstone kind of thing, where they mine it out of the ground and they can refine it and pull the magic from that. And, you know, it'll be like, who's doing that, right? So I would say it is a finite resource, kind of like coal, if you will. There's only so much coal on the earth. So in this case, this would be, there's only so much powder of the ascended powder that that is going to be able to be pulled out. Or maybe it, you know, and there may be like, maybe we're pulling it out and it's a crystal, and you grind up the crystal and that's what you inhale, or you smoke, or you put into sources. But there's only so much, and it doesn't grow fast, or maybe it is renewable, but it just, you know, it takes a really long time to grow. So it'd be like a tree that takes 500 years to grow. So you plant one, now you have to wait 500 years to be able to harvest the tree or to gain the abilities of that. So maybe the crystals, they grow from the death of the ascended in that area. If you overharvest them, they won't grow, or they're stunted, or something happens. So some land management's required, right? So I want to say yes. Some magics are exhaustible or need time to replace, regrow. And again, you know, you chew up all the plants that make healing potions, you won't have any more healing potions, or you'll have to figure out a different way of making healing potions. Maybe there's limitations on that, like you can't cause certain plants to grow faster using magic, or what have you. If a magician must feed his spells, how about feed spells with willpower, with own willpower, life force, or sanity, what long-term effects will this have on the health or stability of the magician? I don't know about that one. That's a good thought. Let me think about that. Because ideally, I would like to have some kind of inborn magician. Maybe some of the ascended, you know, going back to lineages. Maybe the ascended did like Zeus did, and you know, assumed the form of a peacock and hooked up with a lady person or a dude person or something like that. It's a little weird, but it is what it is. Yeah. I don't want to say no on this. I think that there might actually be some interesting, and I'm thinking, you know, the thought is like a wild magic kind of thing. I'm thinking, you know, or maybe it does age them, or, you know, I feel like magic needs to have a downside. I don't see a lot of that in a lot of RPGs, and maybe that's because we don't want our PCs to have a downside. So if we're just throwing fireballs all day, it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to say yes. There's going to be, for some magic types, I would say every magic type. I think every magic type will have some kind of downside. Like if I decide to have a spirit magic or a shaman, a spiritualist who can channel spirits or something, maybe there's a danger of being possessed, or whatever emotional baggage the spirits have, or otherworldly beings can possess somebody. Maybe it affects your sanity. You know, if you're using the powder of the ancients or the ascended to, you know, fuel your magic, maybe it messes with your health. Maybe you run into some issues there where you would have to deal with that, or maybe it changes you, like mutates you in some way. More to come. I think we can flesh that out, but I don't want to say no to anything in this case. Do different species or races have different sources for their magic, or does everybody use the same one? I don't want it to be speciest. I don't want it to be racial. Yeah, I don't like the idea of species or races having magic just because they're elves, right? Or what have you. I think that I would say there's probably a chance of having more of those people, or maybe that instead of it being, you know, like, oh, you know, all, you know, rabbit folk, for instance, can only use ascended mage powder or ascended powder or something like that. I think that would be based on their culture, right? I would say yes, but I think it's going to be like culturally based, or it's what they have in the area. You know, maybe. Yeah, I'm going to say it's going to be based on location. Maybe they don't have ascended powder in that area because none of the ascended landed in their area. Maybe their side of the world was on the opposite side when the wars happened, and you know, maybe there's they're on their lost continent. You know, maybe they, you know, I don't know, based on location or maybe they had no reason for that. You know, they have spirits that teach them how to do stuff, so they never needed the powder. Maybe the mixing of different magics, like if a spiritualist use the ascended powder, maybe that causes some problems or interactions. So maybe something we can investigate at some point in the future, assuming we go longer term with this thing. The other thing is I'm trying to keep this light because if we go once and it's like, oh, this isn't any good, then it's going to be like, oh, okay. So. Okay, so alternate Earth. Are there non-human inhabitants of this planet? Yes, there are. Because I think I've already mentioned something like a Warren folk, because I wanted to have some Warren folks. I would say... yes. If so, how numerous? I would say they're comparable to other... I don't want to say that like it's a 30-30-30 split or something like that. I would say it's probably numerous in their homelands. Rarer as you go further away from the respective homelands. Now, the other interesting thing is, how do we, some of the things like travel, right? So, not to, if we're all based in Indonesia and the Warren folk live in, like the equivalent of what would be Mexico, that's quite a ways away from Indonesia. There's a massive ocean area around there that's missing. So that's why I said maybe we'll have an island or something out here in the middle, or another, land mass that is that gets there. But it's like if we have some camel kind in the desert areas, like in one of the areas here in what is the Earth's Sahara Desert. Are they going to know about the Warren folk that live in our alternate Mexico? Maybe, maybe not. Will we find similar Warren type folk in that area? I don't know. Do they have jackrabbits or whatever in those areas? So it'd be basically what I want to do is I want to see what animals they would have in those areas, and then see what we can do about turning them not human, but making them where we can use them as role-playing characters. So, all right, how openly present? I would say, on this one, I would say it would depend on how much travel they do. Depending on travel. Because there may be some that are like, we're xenophobic. We don't want to travel a lot. So, if there's a gibbon population or, type species here on Madagascar or whatever the equivalent of that is, maybe they don't travel. Maybe they have their own thing. Maybe they have their own spiritualism. And maybe there's a lot going on there, right? So, maybe the Spanish alpacas up here don't know about the gibbon families, but something happens that puts them together. For instance, what areas do they occupy? I would say any climate, right? I would say, we might have down here in Antarctica, we could have polar bears, right? Talking polar bears, or talking penguins. We could have penguins down here, right? Harbors, we could have seals, or potentially underwater races of orca, for example. Maybe there's an Atlantis of the oceans on our planet that is fake. So yeah, and maybe there's a nice bird population here on what is New Zealand, that kind of thing. How similar are the history and culture of the alternate Earth to the real history or culture? Why is it so similar or different? History or culture of the alternate Earth to real history and culture. I would say, I think it's going to depend on the climate, right? There are, if you're in a desert area, your actions, your culture, your thought, your drives, your Maslow's hierarchy is going to be different based on, scarcity of food, or how you get food, or can you grow food, or are you, are you fishing? If you're in the island areas here, is fishing a way of life? Is there farming? Your climate is going to be a huge factor here. So if you lived in the outback of, our alternate Australia, are you going to grow wheat? Are you going to be farming trees? I mean, what is are you going to be mining? Maybe this is one of the areas where one of the ascended fell. So you're going to have old West type towns that are going to have mines to mine the crystals from the ascended bodies or something like that. You might have, dust storms and things. So growing things is going to be difficult. And so you're going to be importing and exporting things. So, that leads to, I'm just thinking out loud, import and exports. You're going to have, port towns that are going to be bringing in stuff to be able to take to the mining areas. So yeah, I would say this is going to be very much, based on a lot of, it's going to be based on, good tropes that we've had in the past, like Western mining towns, Then of course you're just going to have your Curse of Strahd type area where you're going to have to go to a forested area, or you're going to have the Sunless Citadel where it's going to be in a tropical area. And why does it exist there? And we're going to have to figure out an existence path for that. So it's going to be based on climate, location, and the culture. And again, I want to be very sensitive to the cultural aspects. Not trying to make light of anybody. They all have cultural tendencies based on what they grew up with, or passed down folklore, or storytelling, or writing, or spreading of ideas, or if they were conquered or not conquered, or they were the conquerors. Climate, location, history, cultural aspects. They could have been visited by some ascended, which helped them, understand technology. So, they're able to create flying machines. Maybe this really remote island here is a storehouse of advanced technical. They're building the magical equivalent of a nuclear reactor there, or they're able to build gigantic flying warships, and their empire stretches hundreds of leagues because they were able to do force projection, that kind of thing. And again, it's going to be scale, right? So we're not going to be dealing with something on this level. It might actually be something like, somewhere in this island chain for the Philippines or what have you, or down here in Indonesia or Java or Sumatra, somewhere in those areas, or it might be over here in the Caribbean, or in the Mediterranean. What is our Mediterranean? Dang it! Come on now. It might be whatever Greece is, and that would be that would be comparable to, what might happen there. And it's not everybody's going to be, polytheistic, and we're not going to have like ancient Greek society, but it may be something different, like an agrarian society or something like that. Of criteria. And of course, ideally, I'd love it if you, the viewer, was helping out with some of this as well. If you have an idea on where you would like to put something and it's not, overly, if it's somewhat unique, or if you've got some idea on how you would like it to be, I'm all ears, and we'll talk about how that might get put into place. And of course, you'll get credit. Is there a specific historical point where this world split off from ours? Napoleon won at Waterloo, etc. If so, what was it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that Napoleon didn't exist, or if he did, he was a rabbit warren folk that tried to take over, the Lapland or something like that. I don't know. I would say that whatever historical precedent that our Earth has is not the same as this one. So there you go. I did like the thought of this here, where it was like, oh, did magic cause the split in history? But there are game systems, it's like, magic was discovered in like ancient Greece, or is used in ancient Greece. The gods really existed, kind of thing. All right, so there's no specific point of divergence. What are the differences between this imaginary world and the real one? I would say technology-based. I would say airships exist, so that would put us around the time of, say, the Montgolfier brothers, if you will. Which is I would put us in the area 1783. That's a little long. Well, if we go back to the point of, I'd say if we go back to the point of, if it was on a par of like where Greece figured out how to use steam engines, I would say it'll be like, 14th or 15th century. Maybe we don't have, gunpowder's been around for 1,000 years since then. So maybe there are areas that will be having more technology than others. Let's see, what is the real difference? How obvious are they in everyday life? I would say, okay, if magic exists, but history is more or less the same, why has it had no effect? If magic works, elves exist, etc., but most people don't know it, why has this been a secret? Okay, so that's not applicable here. That one is not applicable. Magic exists and more or less the same. Why has it had no effect? That's also not applicable. I would say magic is going to affect history, right? It'll be used as a weapon. It'll be used for scientific achievement. It will be used for conquest. It'll be used to help save people's lives. What the hell is going on here? Yes, I would say it is obvious in everyday life. And what will that mean? Will people be able to benefit from that? And I would say yes, they probably will be able to benefit from that, depending on where they live in the world. There we go. What are the differences between this world and the imaginary one? I would say we don't have cars, but we will have transportation. And if we're using steam, then maybe we're not using, maybe we have steam engines. Maybe we have wagons that can move themselves. and you know, maybe it's like where you'll not see that in villages because maybe they're not as ubiquitous elsewhere. So you know, maybe people will still ride horses, or maybe the horses ride people. Horses ride people. You know, maybe it's not horses, maybe they're lizards. I was thinking of, there was a 3rd edition book, Noble Animals. 3rd edition. Yeah, the Noble Wild. So I have these weird. Oh my. Okay. Well, that's not very good. There we go. So you can buy it for $10 on DM Guild. The idea is you've got animals that are smart, and you know, they have playable races. This is from 3rd edition, I think, D&D, or 3.5. But there's, you know, they have different prestige classes. I think, what was that? You know, there's talking animals in like Xanth and stuff like that. Perhaps they, and in Oz. So Oz had talking animals as well. So they could, you know, manipulate things. Dr. Dillamond could, you know, have accessible technology that he could use to do his job as a teacher. You know, you had different animals doing different things. And they don't all have hands, maybe. So maybe there's assistive technology so they can do things, or maybe their magic is in a different way or method. Maybe they have to eat their magic, which is why they get it from plants. And maybe there's anthropomorphized, you know, Warren folk or something like that. But, you know, this is, to give you an example. So anyway, I would say technology level, just offhand. There we go. Okay. And if magic is known to exist, yes, which historical events have changed, which ones are the same? Okay, so we don't have, this would be NA. I would say that, you know, we'll have to figure out, as we start looking at the different races and what have you, then we'll have to start looking at, you know, were they conquered, or were they, you know, conquerors? Were they, have they been left to their own devices? How has organized religion reacted? See, I'm not a fan of religion. In this case, I know everybody likes clerics because that's what they use to heal people. They're the band-aids of the group. I find, at least in some rule systems, that the cleric is very similar to the warlock or the paladin. They enter into some sort of agreement, whether it be symbiotic or not, and they gain power from a higher level. Now, for the Ascended, because I'm not calling them gods, I would say that in this case, you could have an organized religion around an Ascended, and perhaps, you know, newly ascended or demigods, demi-ascended, or the demis, if you will, or the hemis, heroes can ascend when given the right conditions. And that maybe there's some hero worship, right? We don't call it, you know, worship, or, you know, we don't call it like pact magic or whatever, but it'd be hero worship. And just like with so this is, there's plenty of free stuff out there that I'm not, I pay for a lot of stuff because I Kickstart or what have you, but so there's something called the Primal Order, which was a capstone book. Primal Order. Yeah, so this was a book that I picked up from Amazon way back in the day. Well, it was about 5-6 years ago. I think I still have it. Yeah, I've got it right over there. Primal Order. I have chessboards. I have the expansions, all of the ones that came with it. Pawns, the opening move. I have the Knights one, and I have chessboards. There was actually a couple of other books that were going to come out as well. If Magic the Gathering hadn't come out, they probably would have continued making these. But the idea with the Primal Order is that the Ascended have Ascended power, for example, and to expand themselves or to rise in the Ascended orders, which there probably are more powerful Ascended, they have to give it away, or they have to build things, or they have to create miracles or whatever. So I actually have the version that has all of the controversy stuff in here, including the Palladium changes that they had that they got sued for. But yeah, see, these were the ones that were supposed to come out, but didn't happen. So yeah, and then these two, yeah. It's unfortunate. I actually I think I have one of them signed by the author. I think the chessboards one. I think he created the chess playing, Dave Howell. I think he signed that one for me, so I have that one signed by the author, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so the idea is, yeah, the Ascended, when they gain their power, they want more power, right? And so they will enter into packs, or they will enter into followers and scions and avatars and things. So, once the overpower gives them what they need, and they ascend after so many people have infused their souls or whatever, and that's, that's something we'll have to look at and potentially review. But yeah, so I want to say there may be some organized religions, but it's not something where everybody's getting involved. It'd be like if you decide you want to follow that person, I don't want to say they reacted anyway, because it's kind of well known where things are. So I would say there is an organized organized groups following Ascended do exist. I mean, in this case, like most religions, it's like a multi-level marketing kind of thing where you have, except, the gods or the Ascended do exist, right? And I would say some don't want to be worshipped. Maybe they just want to go on and do their own thing. Others maybe do like the adoration. Others maybe want to be more selective. So I'd say that's how we would think of the Ascended. If they decide they want to give that away, that maybe once they ascend, they understand how they can basically rip off a piece of their now ascended soul and give it to somebody to power them, or allow their followers to partake of their energy so that they can do things like channel divinity, whatever we're going to call channel divinity in this case. Governments. I would say there has to be some organization, but I don't think it's going to, you could have a God King on Earth or something. I would say that would probably be, maybe the Ascended, I don't want to say keep to themselves, but maybe some folks don't want to be known. So then maybe some of the Ascended go off and do their own thing in the cosmos. If you are the head of a government and you're an Ascended, that's like a big giant lightning rod to, hey, come and kill me, or hey, blow shit up or whatever. So I would say there are governments. I would say any organizing body. So I would say you'd have kingdoms. If democracy does exist, it would be in its ideal form there. You'd have maybe majocracies. you know, maybe the Simone Biles of the world are the queens of huge nations or continents, or you know, manage other kings or other monarchy. So I mean, could be. Let me see. If magic is known to ordinary people, I think, like I said, would have access to some magics. They have access to it. They can be trained in it. I think anybody could be a mage if they wanted to be. You know, given the right place, or you know, they could take over and be the spiritualist of the area. I think an adventurer has to be motivated, right? I think that's part of it. They have to be motivated to want to go and do something or to make a change. You know, when we go into towns and we see all these people, they're just not motivated. They have different drives on why they do things. So let's grab that. There we go. Now, maybe there are some places they don't have that ability. But I do want to believe that if people wanted to better themselves, they can. I want to believe that. What laws and or professions are different? I think there's too many things to talk about here in this case. There's, you know, it could be very much like a trope where you can't, you know, channel spirits in this kingdom, or the government has outlawed, you know, necromancy, you know. But there may be some countries that are like, yeah, we like using skeletons as cheap labor, and once you've died, your body is no longer connected to you, and so we're gonna turn you into a, you know, a shambling mess of something that can go and you know, mine ores. And maybe some countries don't like that are next to you. Hey, we don't want undead, you know, getting into our mines, or yeah. So I would say there's too much. I think there's too much here. So that may be something we could do on an ad hoc basis. I think what we'll do is, as we scope, it'll be like, okay, in our village, you know, everyone has access to potions and herbs and stuff like that, or, you know, depending on where the dart lands on the earth, or our version of Earth, it'll be like, oh, we're in a desert. Okay, so we are blah. And of course, our PC may not even be human. It could be a Warren folk, or it could be a, you know, a lizard person thing, or something like that. All very exciting. All very exciting. So, too much to discuss. We'll handle on a case-by-case basis. And I think what we'll have to do is, it's like, you know, we know, you know, whatever's north, south, east, west of us. You know, if we're in the country of Kirplakistan, the people to the north of us are friendly. The people to the south of us, maybe not so much. East and west is, you know, if we're in, you know, let's say we're in whatever is the equivalent of Mali or or Niger, or those areas, you know, very desert, very dry. You know, we have certain things, you know, it'll be like, you know, we may have to ask a question of, did one of the Ascended fall here during the War of Words, for instance? And then we'll have to figure that out. Are there, you know, and of course, you know, geographic structures, mountains, you know, dunes, you know, was there previous civilization here? You know, how does magic work in our little area? So maybe that, you know, we'll pick one of these areas that has the ability for us to go and, you know, fly out, like Equatorial Guinea or someplace like that, or one of these other areas. It'll just be kind of almost like a dart throw to say, you know, we may take like a, you know, a random generator of all the countries of the world and go, that's where we're going to start. And then instead of it being, you know, South America or South Africa or something like that. It'll be whatever country, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, we have this enemy here, or this country here, this kingdom here, this government here, these folks here. Oh, and here's some exclaves that we've got that, or enclaves in here that represent other factions or something. So then now there's some factions that we need to work through and discuss. Excuse me. What effect will the general and specific differences have on the social questions below? What effect will the general and specific differences have on the what's social questions? Social questions. Social questions below. What effect will the general and specific differences have on the social questions? But she doesn't have any social questions. Okay. Interesting. So it seems like this article didn't cover social questions. And that may be where we'll have to go in here to something else here, talking about, crime in the legal system. Do we use magic for, torture and magic part of the legal system? No. Arbitrary judgments by landowners allowed. Wow, okay. So some of that shit is ultra specific, right? Some of this will be like, are there separate courts for humans and non-human? No, God. Yeah, so some of that we'll have to add to the list. So I'm going to say, I would say we're going to handle that on a case-by-case basis as well. And I think that'll add to the color and to like a scenario, for instance. So someone gets murdered. What does the legal system look like? Is it like the U.S. justice system where the rich have an in, or is it the burden of proof is on the prosecution? Is it is there a death penalty? Is trial by combat? Is it what does it look like? If we have a ram as the judge, and there's the potential bias or something like that. So there's a ton of stuff we can talk about with that. This is I might actually use this one, because now that we've kind of gotten the generic stuff down, we can move along through this. There's a QR code for that one if you want to follow that. Also, I will put this link into chat. There's for that one. But the interesting thing was I saw that there is no shortage of world building questionnaires out there. And I think it just really depends on what you want to do. So like this one, there's a whole, are the hidden rules of magic. So the problem is there's an embarrassment of riches, right? There's so much free stuff out there. You don't have to buy anything. But I have books about various things, including one that I think was written by Gary Gygax called Aria, way back in the day. And I bought that one years ago. Where is it? No. Yes, here's Strixhaven. That's the story about going to college, 5-year mage colleges. Anyway, one second. So this is the one I'm talking about right here, Aria. If we go to, where is my mouse? There it is. So yeah, it's called Aria, Canticle of the Monomyth, written by, oh no, Christian Scott Moore. That would explain why I couldn't get it. This is a source book for that, and it talks about forging the monomyth, concepts of myth making, internal languages, role-playing, narrative guides, social determinants, creation methods, society trials, interactive history. So it's a whole book about creating worlds. Dominant material scales. So you have technology values, dominant material scales, stone or wood, stone and bone, iron, steel. So it's like on a D20. So you could roll a D20. Oh, wait. There you go. So you can roll like a D20 or something to figure out like whatever dominant materials are in your area. And this is for like the formless one. So if you didn't do like it's an alternate Earth. So all of your climate and everything is already figured out. Legal complexity. I mean, we're getting down to, here's an example. The Northmen of Furnost Heath. And they're talking about tribal law and pacts of honor. Legal codes within the Heath tribes are all centered around the notions of honor which permeate the Northman culture. It says, while proper behavior is passed along verbally from parent to child within each clan, occasionally crises situations arise which require the special attention of the clan head or tribal chief. So the book goes through a ton of stuff, like primitive versus advanced infrastructures. I mean, it's some more stuff that I've pulled up. Talking about anarchy infrastructure. So it's like various types of governments, direct democracy infrastructure, authority, consent, power, constitutional support, anarchy infrastructure. No ruling agency holds power in this infrastructure. Authority exists on an individual level as each member of society governs his or her own actions. I mean, it's... So a lot of it is based on D20, tolerance, prevalence, and diversity. So here's your DE and I section, along with religion. Ironically, they're in the same thing. Religion, arts, scholastics, and magic comprise the major branches of cultural learning and achievement known as the humanities. Religious worship, philosophy, and fine arts, including painting, sculpture, music, drama, and dance, literature, poetry, architecture, and magical lore all fall within the category of humanities. Humanities differ from the former social determinants in that they highlight and reflect the ideologies and values of the society, defining its cultural ambiance rather than revealing its sustaining mechanisms and infrastructures. I mean, this book basically has everything you'd want if you ever wanted to set this up. I thought it was a Gygax book, but I was wrong. Maybe that's the world's, no? I forget. Aria Canticle of the Mind. There it is. So yeah, there's apparently more than one book. And yeah, see, here's one for role playing. 500 contained descriptions got more edited. When did this come out? Yeah, see, determine the attributes of their player nations. So this one is more, it's not like a D20 or something. It feels like this is where you can tell stories, like collaborative storytelling. Where did my background go? My background disappeared. Oh, there it is. But yeah, so every player creates a player nation, interplay between theirs. Yeah, so it was a role-playing game published by Last Unicorn Games in 1994. Yeah. Oh, eventually purchased by mages of the harbor or whatever. Collectible card games. Okay, cool. And Canticle of Montemyth. Persona creation book and myth creation book. And there was other books in the series, I thought. Where is it? So I have, this is the one I have right there, Worlds. And of course it's not available in soft cover or elsewhere. These are not new. Oh, looks like you can maybe buy it on Pyramid. Yeah, looks like you can buy it on Pyramid if you wanted that. And it talks about, yeah, it says working through the world building process. So flexibility is a little unsettling to old school role players. No hard and fast rules to arbitrate the scale of the game. According to the designer's spirit of Aria is to make all decisions by group fiat. So, I would be the fiat in this case, or people who want to, join us in the world creation. So Worlds is the serious role player offers a logical and thorough system for creating fantasy narrative environments. Ding, 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 ding. These settings can be anything from a country inn to a continent to a city to a continent. Either common sense or interactive creation, dice and charts, and the myth guide. Aria E's for the GM, so I'm the myth guide, and the ensemble, who's everyone else, which is also me and you, if you want to help out. Answers a series of interlocking questions about the setting. How big is it? How old is it? What are its philosophical foundations, and so on. So yeah, 1 to 10 ranking system. Base numbers plus rank. Final numbers rolled on a d10. Character and conflict resolution systems are hardly central to the game since character guidelines are primarily narrative. The characters transport easily to any system. The only time Aria is necessary is when the game is played in Aria time, which I think they said is like eons or decades, kind of like Foundation series of books. It's like you're spanning hundreds of years, right? Until another company tackles the idea of role-playing nations, Aria's system of leverage pools and interactive history works nicely. One benefit of purchasing Aria is a free subscription to the company newsletter, written by both fans and staff. Canticle. There's almost 600 pages of material. It's an excellent buy. Okay, so this was written in what? Oh, Pyramid 13. So it's a bit old. I don't know if you can buy this book anymore. Gods. Yeah, I bought this one a long time ago because I was doing world building and thought it would be a good idea. Last Unicorn Games, New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, 17070. Printed in Canada. Yeah. Aria is designed to function on several levels during the course of a single game. Players may assume the roles of particular personas, persona genealogies, or even whole societies. So you could be a whole race of bunnies in one person, and this is what you decide the bunnies are going to go do. We're going to go invade Wolf Town or something like that. And yeah, so interesting. So the role-playing aspect, I don't know where you would find this book. Some of these books, I mean, are out of print, but it would be great to be able to pick them up again if you could. Yeah, so, but Last Unicorn Games. So if you can pick it up, if you can find it on the internet, I'm not going to tell you how you might be able to find it on the internet. But if it's out of print and you can't buy it, I would consider it abandonware, much like video games. And if you're looking for the book and you want to check that out, go grab it. But yeah, see, it's out of stock on eBay. Oh, wait. No, you can't buy it. Oh wait, this is Spanish. Okay, let's see. How about Amazon.com? Let's see if I can do it. There you go. See, I purchased this in 2011, so I've had it for like 13 years. So it's not new. I can't even buy it used in this case. So yeah, sorry about that. But as I said, there's probably ways you can find it online. And if you could buy it online, I recommend you buy it. But if you can't find it and you can find it online, you should probably get it. And so, yeah. Looks like it's, you know, despite the overly verbose language, lots of invented terms and murky organizations, it's an essential tool for mostly fantasy, realistic society creation and world building. There you go. Provides few answers for you, but prompts you with a lot of excellent and insightful questions. Plus, there's a ton of tables where you could just, you know, figure out what you want to do. Plus, you know, if you're not up to understanding, like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so, yeah, so, sorry, it's, yeah, there you go. So, not available. I did buy it in 2011, as you can see up there. But there are tables for all kinds of humanities tolerance descriptions. So yeah, tolerance. This society is completely intolerant of the practice of religion, arts, scholastics, or magic. The humanity in question is considered a threat to the ideologies and values of society, and its practice is forbidden. Those individuals caught engaging in this activity are persecuted and punished by death, exile, imprisonment according to the law. Those who manage to earn a living by employing these talents belong to the marginal class. So yeah, I mean, they have all the way up to number 20, where the society celebrates the practice of the humanity in question. So if you wanted some magically intolerant organization, you'd want to roll fairly low on the humanities tolerance, chapter, or humanities prevalence descriptions. The society evinces no trace of art, religion, scholastics, or magic. Humanity in question, if practiced at all, is engaged by select individuals who work behind closed doors. So let's say, you're not allowed to run magic in that area, but there's a cabal of folks in the background that practice it behind closed doors, or maybe they don't like certain art. So art is being done in the back. Maybe nudes. If you paint nudes, maybe you're not allowed to see people naked that aren't your family or your significant other. Maybe the drawing of those nudes and displaying them is anathema to the organization, or to the government, or to the nation. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff here. It's very philosophical orientation. So 0 to 15, survival, war, conquest, equilibrium, peace, or knowledge and thought. So yeah, different orientations, different organizations, orientation aspects. Yeah, whoever wrote this did a lot of work on anthropology and the history of, history, right? There's just a ton of stuff with regard to that. So if you want to create a fantasy world, find that book, find the role-playing system, and yeah. Cool. Well, I think what we want to do next, after we have now finished these questions, so what have we learned? Let's see. We're going to, so what we've got is we've got an Earth. We've got an Earth, very similar to this one. It is our Earth, but it's not. So, if you flip it and reverse it, that may be what we end up doing. My other thought was to maybe take various land masses and mix them up, but then I thought, well, that'll mess up the climate in that area, and that means I'll have to figure out climate, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So basically, this is one of the multiverses Earth. So Earth 4212 or something. And minus the ugly Mercator projection or what have you. If I could figure out how to use Google Maps for this, I would. But it would be like, we'll take all of the places on Earth and we will figure out where we're going to start playing. And we may end up going through some of the other questions that was in our list here, talking, and I think that this will depend on, and hell, we might actually pull out this book and look through and see what that looks like for us. What our appetites are, and like I said, we'll use this, but we'll use that when we're talking about certain facets of the organization. What's the likes, what's the dislikes, what works for people, what doesn't work for people. And I think our first race, or our first non-human race, will be coming up next. We'll try to figure out who our character is going to be, and I think we can go ahead and get started with building that out. What are the truths in our area, if you will? We know there's magic. We know that people can use magic, or the inhabitants of this world can create magic. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is, how did the world exist? How did this Earth exist? And my thought was, because we're working on the idea of magic, and I need to what the hell happened here? Okay, alternate Earth, yeah. I want to say that everybody knows who created this world. And maybe we're not called Earth. Maybe it's called, Rutania or something like that, planet name generator. I don't want it to be City Alpha 5, but yeah, planet generator names. Here we go. So, excellent site. There you go. Good site. You can check out the QR code there. Fantasy name generators, there's a ton of lists and things for this. Like I said, playing your own world or your own systems, so many free systems out there that you can play with that you don't need a system for. You don't even need to buy a book. And so, yes, let's be Tria I0F. Yeah, let's do that now. Vibunia. Holvion. Let's add it. Let's add it. Let's get five of them, and I will leave it. You know what? I think in the interest of getting some user interaction with fans here, we will do a. Ooh, that's a good name. I will pick 5 that we will use. I don't want something that's just like, Earth or IRTH or, whatever. I was just trying to find something that is Imith. I'm gonna pronounce that as Imith. Seoria. Holvian. I don't want Planet McPlanet face, so Zotania. Do Zotania. And then one more. We'll do 5. And let's just do that, and then whenever I stop, we'll use that. Levishan. Okay. Levishan. All right. So the only other thing I want is, when I was talking about the war of the words, right? And my thought was, hold your applause until later, is that this world, whatever one of those 5 is, and we're going to go with those 5, and I'll just pick a random one if we don't get anybody who votes. The world was created by the author. The author is the person who dreamed up this world, because in his dreams were made real, as we have seen in the fantasy world or our imagination. Maybe the author's world leaves a fragment or leaves a piece of their dreams, and potentially the world was dreamed up by the author, who left the words, like as if they were writing them on the page, became real. And the Ascended, who are the people that he thought up, weird, isn't it? Or the author thought up, found the words and believed they could control the narrative. Because the words control the narrative. And that is how we get this planet, and the idea is that maybe there's other worlds out there created by the author. You see where I'm kind of going with this? I'm the author. So the problem is the author has left his world because he was in it while he was dreaming, right? And maybe he's not very good at imagination, which is why he thought it was a very similar Earth. And so that is what he decided to do. He created the world, and the words are his gift to that universe, that pocket universe that he created with his mind. But he woke up and left, and there was a hole. And maybe there's a story about the first ascended. Maybe there is somebody who he befriended on that planet or that universe that became the first ascended. Maybe he was the touched or something like that. Maybe the ascended were like their friends that he or the author thought of in their life that are simulacra or simulacra of people who live in that world. So maybe we'll have to create some of the first ascended, and perhaps once he left, those people stayed. And there was some conflict, which is the war of the words. They tried to take over and thought they could do as well as the author. So maybe they were made up of people that he knew, he grew up with. Maybe he didn't. Maybe an enemy that he thought was his friend or the author's friend that caused the discord and caused the war of the words. And so, yeah. And that caused the conflict. So, War of the Words was the authors created friends and enemies, adversaries. And it could be, because the author grew up with a bunch of role-playing games from worlds created that he learned about, like the Gygaxian worlds. So perhaps maybe the equivalent of a vampire who lives in a, pseudo-Romanian setting like Barovia. Perhaps that exists on this world. Or perhaps, there's undead that are extremely powerful that have taken over, and so sky's the limit, right? Fought and died over the words, and their bodies and power was dispersed over the land, empowering plants, flora, and fauna, causing mutations in this case. So maybe, we have smart animals and speaking animals and the Warren folk and plants that can walk and talk, and plants and herbs and materials that allow us to make things like potions and what have you to the world. So the idea would be if the author came back, it would not be the same place that he left, right? Might not even recognize it as his own invention, because perhaps where the author exists physically, this world moves in a different time. So it'd be like Narnia, for instance. If C.S. Lewis created Narnia in his head, he left to come back to Earth. When he would go back to Narnia, hundreds of years may have passed. So, the author may have left. What if he comes back? What if the author comes back and finds it not as he expected? Would he be happy with that? Or would he not be happy with that? And what if he didn't have the ability to make any changes now that things have changed so much? Or maybe his ability to change the narrative has changed him. So just thinking out loud here on that. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna go. I think this was a good first start, and hope you've enjoyed watching this as much as I've enjoyed playing around and brainstorming these ideas. I don't think there's any wrong ideas, and I may not take all of these ideas and use them here, or use them in the scenario that I might have coming up. We'll talk about role-playing systems and games. There's actually a couple of ways that you can role play yourself through systems. There's Mythic and there's other things. Not a fan of having to create a ton of lists, so if I did that I would have to probably use what's out there and available already. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed, and hope you have a good day, and take care, and we'll talk to you soon.